Level 1. Fresh blood. You're a kid who grew up between the cracked sidewalks of South Los Angeles, who learned that the color blue means survival. At home, your mom works 2 shifts. Mornings cleaning at the hospital, nights at the register of a convenience store. When you go to bed, she hasn't come back yet. When you wake up, she's already gone. Your dad isn't there either, locked up, out on the streets, or in the ground. At school, the teachers don't notice you. There are 33 kids in the class, and you're in the back row. You were always in the back. In the neighborhood, everyone has already convicted you. The lady next door averts her eyes. The store owner drifts toward the button under the counter the moment he sees you walk in. You're only 12 years old, and the world is already acting like it's made up its mind about you. Then, someone looks at you with trust. For the first time, they don't look away, don't lower their voice, don't move their hand toward their pocket. "Lil homie," they say, and in those 2 words, there's something no teacher, no social worker has ever given you: being seen. That day, you're standing at the door of a world that revolves around a blue bandana. You haven't stepped inside yet, but the door is open, and the light coming from inside looks warmer than anything outside. Level 2. PEWE. You passed your first test. Maybe you protected someone's money. Maybe you stood in the right place at the wrong time. Maybe you just didn't run. Sometimes that's the only thing that's enough. Not running. They know you as Pee-wee now. It's the first step out of namelessness, but it's also the start of a countdown. You wear your blue Don rag to the left. Left side is Crips side, right side is the death side. You're learning the code language. You say cuz or lock now. You never let the letter B cross your lips because that letter belongs to the Bloods. And in this neighborhood, even letters have a bloody history. You learn the Crip walk, adjusting your steps to the rhythm of the street. This isn't a dance, it's a language, a way of saying who you are without ever opening your mouth. You don't just wear blue anymore, you absorb it. When you wake up in the morning, you don't think about what to put on. You don't have to think. Your identity was handed to you, and that feels, strangely, like relief. But at night, when you hear your mom turning her key in the lock, the tired footsteps, the sound of a glass of water in the kitchen, then silence, something tightens inside you. You can still go back. You tell yourself this in the morning, every morning, with a little less conviction. Level 3. Homie. That night came, on the corner of 3rd Street, at 3 in the morning. The air smells like humidity, and one of the streetlights is flickering. 6 men surround you. Some of them you recognize, but tonight they don't recognize you. Tonight they're all doing the same thing. Testing. 60 seconds. They hit you fists, elbows, knees. At one point you go down, but you get back up. Your lip splits open. Your left rib throbs, but you don't make a sound. Making a sound means something worse than the worst thing here. Weakness. 60 seconds end. You're standing. There's blood in your mouth, salty, warm, but you're standing. Someone extends a hand. You grip it. This ritual is called jumped in. You come in through blood, you go out through blood. You're official now. They give you a street name, Lil Ghost, Baby Blue, Demon. Your real name doesn't exist anymore, or at least they don't use it. Your real name is the thing your mom uses, the thing in your school files, something that belongs to the past. Crips has dozens of factions within itself. Rollin 60S, Grape Street, 8 Tray Gangsters, Neighborhood Crips, Compton Crips. Each one has its own history, its own enemies, its own rules. You're tied to one faction now, and it's not just the Bloods. Other Crip factions can be your enemies too. 2 men wearing the same color can kill each other if they meet on the wrong street. Street politics is more complex, more fragile, more personal than international diplomacy. And you, barely 20 years old, don't even realize you're a pawn in the middle of this politics. They don't want you to know anyway. Level 4. OG. Original Gangster. Years passed. You don't really want to count exactly how many anymore because counting means counting everything that passed with them. You took a few bullets, one in the shoulder, one in the leg. While you were laid up in the hospital, your mom waited in the corridor, cried, then went home because she had the morning shift. You did a few years inside 4.5 years in Chino, where you learned your own world, the prison version of the hierarchy. You carried the casket at a few funerals. Some of them were younger than you. Some of them had been jumped in the same night as you. They call you OG now, Original Gangster. That title isn't a measure of your age. It's a measure of what you've paid. Young homies look up to you. You recognize that light in their eyes, the same light, the same hunger, the same need to be seen. and you look at them the same way someone once looked at you. That's the moment something breaks inside you, quietly, without anyone hearing, because you are now part of the system that pulls those kids in. Maybe not willingly, but it doesn't matter. You manage the money, the distribution routes within the neighborhood. Who works where and what hours? Which corridor is clean? Which cop looks the other way? You have 3 lines on a phone that never stops. A burner for the police, a burner for business, an old Nokia for family. 3 separate lives, 3 separate men. Sometimes you look in the mirror and don't know which one you're looking at, but you stopped looking in mirrors a long time ago anyway. Level 5. Big homie. You're big homie now. You don't go out in the field. You make decisions. You decide who gets promoted, who has become a problem, who needs to be silenced. At this level, you understand one thing. The biggest threat doesn't come from outside, not the FBI, not rival gangs. It comes from inside. Betrayal, jealousy, someone who knows too much, someone who talks too much. Trust is the most expensive currency in this world, and the one with the shortest lifespan. The FBI's RICO law, Racketeer Influenced and Corrupt Organizations Act, starts genuinely targeting you from this level onward. You can be prosecuted not for a single crime, but for being the administrator of an organized criminal structure. Your lawyer's language changes. The tone of the questions changes. The question, "What did you do?" gives way to, "What did you have done, and to whom?" One evening, you get 2 calls. Back to back. 1. There's a leak. 2 people are suspects. Needs to be handled this week. The other. Your mom calling. Her voice is smiling. Your son came first in the school competition. An art contest. He won an award. 2 pieces of news. At the same time, in the same hand, in 2 separate phones. You don't know which one to answer first. And that not knowing, that hanging suspended right in the middle, is the thing that breaks you deepest. Not a bullet, not betrayal. Just this moment. Level 6. OG shot caller, regional leader. You're not coordinating one neighborhood anymore, you're coordinating multiple blocks, multiple factions. Nobody says your name out in the open, they just say, "Oh," or they don't say anything at all, they understand with a look. At this level, you don't carry a weapon anymore. You don't put yourself in a place where you'd need to carry one, because there's always someone nearby, and that person's job is exactly that. You follow the trail of money. Cash, real estate, small businesses, a barbershop in Compton, a laundromat in Inglewood, a small trucking company in Long Beach. Laundering dirty money is a game of patience, cutting invoices, listing employees, filing tax returns, keeping everything clean on paper. Your accountant sometimes gives you a strange look, but doesn't ask. They learned not to ask. But every night before you sleep, on the nights you can actually sleep, you think about that first day. The cracked sidewalk, your mother's tired face, and that door, that first open door, you know now that door is millions of miles away. Maybe there's a road back, but the man who would walk it is gone. That kid left a long time ago. You're someone else living in his shadow now. Level 7. OG Godfather. You were at the top. There's no centralized, hierarchical leadership in the Crips structure. This is what structurally separates this organization from Mexican cartels or the Italian mafia. No chain of command, no single name, no single address. This decentralized structure makes it nearly impossible for the FBI to track. But your name circulates in the field in a whisper, as Godfather. Even saying it draws attention. So it's said very rarely. You relay messages to homies inside the prisons through visitors, through lawyers, sometimes through codes in the margins of letters. You manage your contacts inside police departments. Some are in it for the money, some for the threats. Some have gone so deep inside this world there's no way out left. You work with top-tier lawyers who have their own lawyers. The end of those who reach this level gets written into the pages of history. But nobody likes reading those pages out loud. Stanley Tookie Williams, one of the founding figures of the Crips, was executed at San Quentin in 2005. During the years he spent on death row, he wrote books for children, made calls for peace, was nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize, but the California governor denied his clemency petition. Raymond Lee Washington, the other co-founder, was shot and killed in a street altercation in 1979. He was 26 years old. Living at the top doesn't last long. And you knew this, actually, from the very beginning. You knew it, but it was easier to think otherwise. Now go back to that cracked sidewalk, to that first glance, to that open door. 7 levels are behind you, each one a price paid, each one a name, each one the end of something. Some of your homies are locked up, some in Pelican Bay, some in Corcoran. Some don't even know their release date. Some are in the ground. There was blue at their funerals. In these neighborhoods, there's always blue at funerals. You're still here. But where is here? The Crips were born in 1,969 inches. Watts, taking shape around Raymond Washington and Tookie Williams. At the beginning, there was an idea of neighborhood defense in the middle of it, standing up against rival gangs, then drugs, then guns, then money, then their own internal wars. Today, they exist in more than 35 states, with an estimated 30 to 45,000 members. They grow because of their structure. They can't be stopped because of their structure, and because of their structure, every man inside eventually finds himself alone. This world pulls people in because it promises something real. Belonging, loyalty, protection, identity. These are all real needs. But you pay the price of what this world gives you with a list of what you've lost. And the list is always longer than what you've gained. This is not a story of rising. This is a story of cost. And you, at every level, chose to pay that cost. Or you thought you chose. Maybe that door was never really open. Maybe you were already inside before you ever took the first step.